Hey everyone, this is Skylar. Welcome back to my channel at Unicorns and Typewriters. So today I wanted to talk about the unfortunate fact that I failed my first readathon. Yay me. No, it's really like, I feel really negatively about it, and part of me didn't even want to do a video to talk about it, but I feel like it is important to put that out there and talk about failing readathons, because if not, booktube just becomes this weird landscape of like perfection in a world where nothing is actually perfect. I mean, I already felt a lot of insecurities when I first started my booktube, and I knew that like I didn't have an entire wall of books behind me like all of my favorite booktubers did, and I don't have the huge amount of space. I don't even know if I have the same amount of books as some people. I definitely don't read as many books as some of the really big booktubers do a year, and I don't want anyone else to feel like everyone on booktube is perfect. Like, I actually don't think that's really that positive. I mean, maybe that's what gets the views. Maybe perfection gets the views. But like, we have to have some level of honesty here too, and I'm okay with providing some of that honesty, and I'm okay with being one of those examples of people that aren't perfect but still want to be a part of booktube and still want to have a channel and still want to communicate and talk about books, because just because I'm not perfect with my reading and with my readathons doesn't mean that I don't love to talk about books and that I don't deserve a spot in this community just as much as anyone else does. So yeah, so that's why I'm doing this video, even though also I feel kind of guilty and bad about failing my first readathon. It's pretty much exactly the reason why I was nervous to do a readathon, is that I was afraid I would fail, and I was afraid that it really wasn't a good or positive thing for me, because readathons just sound like a lot of pressure and stress, and reading for me, it can't be that. It can't be pressure and stress. It has to be enjoyable. There are so few things in my life that are just like purely enjoyable, and reading has to be one of them. I pushed myself in school, and in many instances in my life made writing and reading into a chore and into schoolwork and into something that is stressful and graded, and I'm so glad that I'm done with that. So anyway, I want to talk about the books that I did read during Asian Readathon 2020, which is the readathon I attempted to take part in, and I'm still really glad that I took part in, because overall, I still feel like I did a part in trying to fight xenophobia and bring attention to a cause that is important to me, which is equality, treating people fairly, not being a racist bigot. We need more of that in today's world. Obviously, there are more fights to be fought, and xenophobia is just one of the few things that we are trying to fight here in the United States right now. But I feel like I did my part by at least supporting some Asian authors. I did buy a handful of books. Actually, right behind me on my shelf is 4 books that I bought. The only one I started reading was I Believe in a Thing Called Love, and I really enjoyed starting reading it, but unfortunately these books I did not get to. Am I mad at myself that I purposely ordered them for a readathon and then didn't read them? Yes. Am I also not mad that I ordered them and own them? No, not at all, because I'm really glad I have these books, because I'm still really excited to read them. I just have a really hard time reading on a schedule and having an exact TBR. Like, there's always books that I'm going to have goals of reading, but having an exact TBR is just not something that is for me. Like, I think loose reading goals are much more up my alley than like, these are the 20 books I'm reading this month, there is no excuses. Like, there's no extra day for failure. Like, I just can't. So anyway, this past month though was a really bad time for me. I did lose a family member. There's not a lot you can do to plan for that or handle that emotionally any better than you're capable of handling it. And unfortunately, my way of handling it was not being able to read as much as usual. I had a lot of other things I was doing, as well as just emotions I was dealing with of my own, that made it hard for me to get invested in other worlds and other characters. So I'm still really happy that I tried to take part in Asian Readathon. I'm happy that I brought, attention to a really great cause, but I unfortunately did fail the readathon. However, I'm gonna still read these books. I am very determined. I would like to at least read all of these books before the end of this year. The first book I attempted to read for Asian Readathon, which maybe wasn't the best choice looking back, was Huntress, because I already owned this book. It's called Huntress by Melinda Lowe. I read her book Ash, and I really liked it. This book is supposed to take place in the same world, but many years before the book Ash took place. It's not a prequel. It's not the same characters, but I was really enjoying it. It's a very dark book, and given that I had no idea that very difficult things would happen in my life during the time that I was reading this book, I just don't think it was the right book for me to be reading last month, and yeah, it's really unfortunate. It's a really cool book, and I still have about a little less than a third of it probably left, and I do plan on finishing this book this month before I start in on anything else, so I'd really like to push through this, and then I probably will read some different books that I talked about in my June reading goals video after I am finished this one. I cannot leave a book like that close to being finished because I know I'll probably like never come back to it if I do that and have to end up reading the entire book over again in like a year when I realize that I never finished it. And I'm not going to do that to myself. Not again. I probably will eventually do that again to myself, but not this time. I really like it though. It's a really cool book. I'm really enjoying it so far. It is fantasy. To me, it has a really strong like Last Airbender vibes, but there's not much humor in this book. It is a really serious book. There is like an LGBTQ romance going on, which I enjoy seeing in YA. Overall, I think it's a really cool and different book. There's not a lot out there like this. Really looking forward to actually finishing it. So the other book that I did end up reading this month was actually, I listened to the audiobook of To All the Boys I Have Loved Before by Jenny Han. And I listened to it as an audiobook because I started listening to audiobooks on my work breaks. And that book I listened to so quickly. I think I listened to like over half the book just like in a day, and it was one of my days off, which I don't usually do. I usually read physical books on my day off, but it was a weird time. It was during the time that I was mourning the loss, and I just like needed something to fully distract me, so I was doing things with my hands, working on some projects while I was also listening to the audiobook. That was a really amazing way for me to finish an entire book during that time because, like I said, I did not finish Huntress, and I'm really disappointed that I didn't finish it. But I did finish To All the Boys I Have Loved Before, and I did get partway into the sequel. If I count like all the like chapters I read, I think I could piece together like another book between that and the fact that I started the book, I Believe in a Thing Called Love, and I almost finished Huntress, and yeah, I'm a mess. Anyway, so I did get into that series, which was a lot of fun. I'm really glad I got into that series because I had watched the Netflix movies, and I think the books definitely have a lot more to them. Give us a lot more information about the characters, have a lot more of like a believable quality, a little less insta-lovey than we get in the movie, but I also feel like the movie picked out some of the best like sort of highlights of the book. I feel like at least as far as the first movie was very well done. I am very excited reading the second book because the second movie didn't quite hit the same chord with me. I don't know if it was just where I was mentally when I was watching it, but the second movie actually I just found really depressing and sad. So yeah, so the second book so far is proving to be very different, in my opinion, than the movie, but I do look forward to rewatching the movies after I've read the books, just to kind of remind myself of what the differences are. And also, I'm really excited that I'm going to probably read the rest of the books before the rest of the movies come out, because I do usually enjoy to read the books before the movies. So I am really excited that I got to that. It was a surprise. It was not something I planned on reading this month, but it just sort of happened to pop up on my audiobook app, and I just decided, hey, why not? That would be a fun book to read, and it's a story I'm familiar with and one that I know I'll enjoy. And I did really enjoy it. So that was a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend those books to just about anyone. They're really, really fun. They have a lot of great humor, and overall, I mean, I don't love Peter's character, quite honestly. I think I liked him better in the movies than I do in the books, which is kind of funny. But I get why Laura Jean likes him, and I get why he is the romance interest, but yeah. Anyway, I think it is totally worth a read, and I really enjoy them, and I really enjoy Laura Jean's character. I think she is just like such a sweet and humorous character, and so relatable, especially to how I was like as a teenager, and I find her really relatable. And there's a lot of topics that are talked about in the books that as I'm reading, I'm just like, man, I wish I read this when I was younger. Like, this book would have helped me a lot. So yeah, they're really amazing books, and I would recommend them to anyone, and I'm really enjoying reading the series. So the other book that I did read for Asian Readathon that I talked about reading in my other videos, so I did complete a reread of Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur, and I'm really happy that I did. It is a book that helped me a lot the first time I read it, and reading it again, it was just as poignant, and I loved it just as much. It's really beautiful writing. I highly suggest it to anyone who likes poetry or who's just getting into poetry. It's super approachable. I really suggest it to especially all women. It's a very powerful feminist read. It just really helps to read some of these thoughts expressed in writing by someone else and to know that it's a collective feeling. And some of these feelings are not just my own and not just something that I'm suffering through alone. I really loved this book and I really loved rereading it for this readathon. So I'm really glad I thought of it. I'm really glad I came back to it. And I do really highly suggest it to anyone, just anyone. Yeah. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, I basically read like 2 and almost a third book for Asian Readathon, and then I started 2 other books. So it's not as if I didn't try, and it's not as if I didn't get a pretty decent amount of reading done, but I still feel like I failed. I feel like it just wasn't what I wanted it to be. I wanted to be like, yeah, I read this whole stack of books, and I didn't. But I think that's okay. I'm still on track for my Goodreads goal for the year. I'm still pretty happy with where I stand as far as reading overall. And I'm really looking forward to this month having a little more freedom. I'm still having a hard time getting back into reading with everything that has gone on in my life in the past month. I haven't been sleeping super well. My job is still super stressful. And yeah, I am struggling a bit. So I'm really hoping this month is going to pick up for me. As far as my YouTube channel goes, I'm still feeling a little bit like in a rut creatively, but I hope I can still come up with exciting content for you all to watch every week. There's a vague chance that instead of doing a second video this week, I might actually take some time to vamp up my YouTube channel to make some improvements in my just layout of the channel. I've been really wanting to figure out how to add like some kind of artwork banner to my channel. It's a little plain right now, plainer than I want it to be. It's just frustrating because I haven't had the time to do that type of thing. So I'm feeling like I failed this readathon. I'm also feeling like a bit of a YouTube failure, but I'm still so grateful and excited for all the subscribers I have, and I'm not going to give up anytime soon. I'm still really enjoying making these videos, and I really hope that you all are still enjoying them. But just like I said, if there is not a second video this week, it means that I did decide to take the time to focus on making my channel even better and just improving it from where it is now, because I do want to just make it as beautiful and approachable as it can possibly be. And I really want to keep growing and having more conversations with other lovely readers like yourselves. So I really hope that you will like this video. Give me a comment below. Let me know if you've ever failed a readathon. Tell me I'm not alone. Tell me what you ended up reading for Asian Readathon 2020. Really just talk to me about books. That's what I'm here for. But yeah, give me a comment, give me a like, and subscribe to my channel. It really does help. So stay tuned, and even if you don't see a second video this week, there will definitely be more videos coming the following week. And I really hope you are all doing well and staying safe. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll be back soon with more videos. Bye!